Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. Today we will be doing the literal and idiomatic translation of the passage that was under discussion in our previous session. To be precise, this is verse 23. We start off with verse 23 and we will go up to verse 44. This, of course, the surah that we are discussing, Surah Al-Imran, is a surah which has introduction, just like Surah Baqarah. There is an introductory passage to it, and then we see the direction is the of address goes towards the people of the book, in particular the Nazarenes, or as we call them, the Christians, and they are handed down their charge sheet vis-a-vis their behavior towards the final prophet of God. So I will start this literal and idiomatic translation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alam tara ila allazina utu nasiban min al-kitab yud'auna ila kitabillahi liyahkuma bainahum thumma yatawalla fariqun minhum wa hum mu'ridun. Alam is like it's two words combined in one. So basically, is have, lam is not. Tara, you see. Ila, towards. Allazina, those who. Utu, given. Nasibam min al-kitab, share of the book, of course, referring to the book itself. Yud'auna. Yud'auna means called. Ila kitabillahi. Ila is towards. Kitabillah is the book of God. Liyahkuma, so that they can judge. Liyahkuma, so that they can judge. Bainahum, between them. Baina is between and hum is them. So bainahum is between them. Thumma, then. Yatawalla. So yatawalla means to draw away. Fariqum, a group. Minhum, from them. Min is from, hum is them. Wa, and. Hum, they. Mu'idun, who turn away. So this is literally how we will view this verse, but idiomatically, so it is Alam tara ila allazina utu nasibun min al-kitab. Have you not seen those who were given the book? Alam tara ila allazina utu nasibun min al-kitab. Have you not seen those who were given the book? Yud'auna ila kitabillah. They were called towards the book of God. Liyahkuma bainahum, so that they could decide or judge. Excuse me. Alhamdulillah. Liyahkuma bainahum, so that they could judge between themselves. Thumma, then yatawalla fariqum minhum. Then instead of passing this judgment, instead of benefiting from this book, what they did was they turned away from a group of them turned away from this book. Summa yatawalla fariqum minhum, then turned away a group from among them. Wahum muridun, and they are people who turn away. So basically, as the verse tells us, that this is how they were given the book, and instead of making the book a deciding factor amongst their differences, what they did was that they turned away from the book of God, and not only, I mean, as the word says, yatawalla fariqum minhum, a large group of them turned away from this, and then wahum muridun, they are people who turn away. This is like an emphatic sentence that, well, this is how things are. They were supposed to be the first to welcome the book of God, but then this is what actually transpired. Zalika, this. Bi-annahum, because. Be is because. Annahum, they. This is because. Qalu, they said. And what did they say? Lan. Lan is certainly not. Tamassana. Tamassana means to touch us. Annar, the fire. Certainly not, that fire will not touch us. Illa, except. Ayyam. So ayyam is the plural of yawm and means days. Ma'dudat, again the plural of ma'duda, means numbered or small number. So they would, this is because they would say that the fire will not touch us except for a few days. So basically, this is the reason that has been scripted by the Quran regarding their behavior of turning away. They think that they will be, if ever they will be punished, it would be just for a few days. Zalika bi annahum, this is because they said, now they say, Lan, certainly not. Tamassana, touch us, annar, the fire, illa, except, ayyamam ma'dudat, was a few days. Wa, and. Gharrahum, gharra means to deceive, and hum, them. So, wa gharrahum fi dinihim. So, it is said that what is wa gharrahum ma din, wa gharrahum fi dinihim ma kanu yaftharun. So, wa gharrahum would mean they were deceived fi, in deenihim, regarding their religion. Deen is religion, him, their religion. And what were they deceived by? Ma kanu yaftarun. Ma is what kanu they have been yaftarun, fabricating. So what they have been fabricating is the reason that they have been deceived. So what has deceived them? What their fabrication has deceived them. And what exactly is this fabrication? That is referred to in the previous part, that the fire will only touch us for a few days. Of course, they have no sanction for this. They have no authority to say this. It is what they have made up. So the Quran says what they have made up, what they have concocted, that has deceived them. Well, basically, the sentence would be "Ma kanu yaftaruna gharrahum." Whatever they have concocted has deceived them fi dinihim, regarding their religion. Fa, therefore, kaifa, how, iza, when, jama'nahum, we shall gather them. Jama'nahum, we shall gather them. Liyawmin, for a day. La, not, raib, doubt, fihi, in it. So what is said here is that what will happen? فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جَمَعْنَاهُمْ, what will happen when we will gather them for a day about which there is no doubt. لِيَوْمٍ, for a day, of course referring to the day of judgment. La, not raiba. Raib means doubt. Fihi, in it. So what will happen to these people when we will gather them for a day about which there is no doubt? The advent of that day is certain to take place. Va, and wuffiyat. Wuffiyat means to be given in full. Wuffiyat, given in full. Kullu, every. Nafsin, soul. Ma kasabat, what it earned. Ma, what, kasabat, it earned. Wa, and, whom, they. La, not. Yuzlamun, oppressed. So wuffiyat kullu nafsin ma kasabat would mean that they will, this will be a day in which every soul, wuffiyat kullu nafsin, every soul will be given exactly what it had earned. Ma kasabat, what it had earned. Wahum la yuzlamun, and no wrong shall come to them. No injustice shall come to them. Wahum la yuzlamun. قُلِ اللَّهُمَّ مَالِكَ الْمُلْكِ تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ. Qul, tell them. So this is basically the Prophet being told that he should tell these people, the Israelites, now their term has finished and God Almighty has decided to bless this position of bearing witness to the Ishmaelites. So it's like a declaration which the Prophet has to tell these people, and this is how the Quran has actually asked him to declare and pronounce before these people. And what is that? Allahumma malik. So kul is of course say. It's like an imperative verb, say. Kul Allahumma malik. So Allah is God. Malik al-mulk means the God of sovereignty. So Malik al-mulk means he is the sovereign of all sovereignty, or he's the controller of all controllers. Tu'ti, you give. Tu'ti means you give. Al-mulk, mulk is kingdom or sovereignty. Man, to. Tasha, who you want. Wa, and. Tanziru, tanziru means take away. Al-mulk, so tanziru is the opposite of tu'ti. Tu'ti means to give, and tanziru means to take away. So essentially what is being said is that God, you are the sovereign of all. You give the sovereignty to whomsoever you like. Mantasha, who, tasha, you like. Wa, and tanziu, and take away. Al-mulk, mulk of course referring to sovereignty. And you take away sovereignty. Mimman, from tasha, you want. So it's essentially what is being said is that God Almighty, you take sovereignty from whomsoever you want to, and you give sovereignty to whomsoever you want to. And we have discussed this on other occasions, that as far as God's taking away or grant of justice of sovereignty is concerned, it is based on his own wisdom. So when it is said mantasha, that he would, to whomsoever he would like to, or whenever he would like to, it is basically referring to the fact that once he has made up his mind, there's no one who can stop him from implementing his decision. And this decision itself will be something which will be based on his profound wisdom. So, وَتُعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ. Wa, and. Tu'izzu, you give honor. Man, to whomsoever. Tasha, you want. So you give honor to whomsoever you want. Wa and. Tuzillu. Tuzillu means to humiliate, to disgrace. Man, whomsoever. Tasha, you want. So basically, this is like a parallel sentence in the positive and the negative sense, implying that you give honor to whomsoever you want, and you give disgrace or you humiliate whomsoever you want. Again, this is a word, there's a word of caution here that has to be kept in mind when it is said that God humiliates whomsoever he wants to, and he gives honor to whomsoever he wants to. This is not something which is meant in any way in the sense that he does it out of his own whims, or he does this without realizing that there is some reasoning or wisdom behind it. These words, dear listeners, you must always understand that whenever this phrase comes up, whomsoever, basically it implies that no one can stop him from implementing his will. It does not mean that when he does something, it will not be based on wisdom or justice. It only means that there is no one to stop implementing what he would like to. There is no deity who can stop him. There are no angels, as the idolaters of Arabia would believe that they will be able to influence the Almighty, win him over, etc. But these words are primarily meant to dispel this notion that anyone is going to have any say in the implementation of God's will. So, biyadikal khair, be is in, yadi, a hand, ka, your. Khair is good. So, in your hand is good, which actually qualifies the previous statement that when God takes away sovereignty from a people and he grants it to another people, and he gives honor to a people and gives humiliation or disgrace to another people, then this is primarily an act of goodness. Biyadikal khair. There is some good hidden in it. It's not something which is done in a haphazard way or controlled by his whims. No, biyadikal khair. Innaka ala kulli shayin qadir. Inna, indeed, ka, you, ala, on, kulli, every, shay, thing, qadir, powerful. So literally it would mean indeed on everything, indeed you on everything powerful. This is how literally it would go, but of course idiomatically it would mean that you have power over everything, you have control over everything. Tulijul layl. So tulij means to pass something into another thing. So tulijul layla fin nahar. Layl, means the night, and nahar is the day. So tulijul layla fin nahar would mean that you make the night pass into the day. Tulijul layla fin nahar. You make the night pass into the day. Wa, and tulijul nahara fil layl. You make the day pass into the night. Of course, this is a reference to the alternation of day and night, which takes place persistently and continuously. So what is being said is that it is you who makes the night pass into the day, and it is you who makes the day pass into the night. وَتُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. وَتُخْرِجُ, you take out, al-hayya, the living, min, from, al-mayyit, the dead. So you take out the living from the dead. Wa, and, tukhriju, you take out, al-mayyita, the dead, from the living. So basically life and death is something that is the prerogative of God. So you take out life from death and you take out death from life. Wa tarzuku, wa, and tarzuku, you give sustenance. You give sustenance. Man, to, tasha, you want. Be, with, ghair, without, hisab, measure. So in an unlimited way. So bighairi hisab, something which is given in an unlimited way. So viewers, just a small thing that I'd like to recap here, that this idiomatic and literal translation again is meant to bring you closer to the text of the Quran. So the methodology that we have been following over the past so many weeks is that we make this we make a point to discuss the translation and the issues which relate to the translation in our first reading. And in the second reading, we take up this passage that we have already discussed, and we go through its literal and idiomatic translation. And the purpose, as I have been pointing out, is that you are brought closer to the text of the Quran. But I have also been reminding you that this can only be of full use to you if you are able to take notes, if you're able to jot down this literal translation, and maybe during the week you're able to revise it, because the purpose is that if you don't have knowledge of Arabic, and many of you would not be having the knowledge of Quranic Arabic. So this is one way to make you, bring you closer to the text, and at the same time, if you keep on doing this, inshallah, I do hope sincerely that because a lot of words are repeated and a lot of concepts are also repeated. So if you keep on jotting down these translations the way we do them in the session, and you revise them, then it's a very high chance that once you read back on the notes and you're able to study the text, you'll be able to understand it directly. So it's basically for this direct understanding that this literal and idiomatic translation is done. And I do request you and do hope that you would follow this. If not already, then please start doing it, because this is the only way that you can come very, very close to the book of God without knowing the Arabic language, or the Quranic Arabic, as we say. So, وَتَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, you give sustenance whomsoever you want to without any measure. So again, you can see in this one or two verses the word tasha, which means you wish, you desire, being used copiously or 3 or 4 times. So please don't get misled by this tasha, because people have been misled by this word, and they think that, well, it is God's will. He can do anything. He can punish the disbelievers, and he can reward the disbelievers, and he can punish the believers, and he can reward the believers. It's all left to God's whim and desire. This is not what the Quran means at all. This tasha, or this will, basically wherever it is discussed, one, it is basically a reminder that no one can stop God from implementing his will, and two, every act that he thinks of or intends to do is not to be taken in an isolation. It is something that he does on the basis of his wisdom and justice also. So his willing something, his desiring something, can never be without justice and wisdom. لا يتخذ المؤمنون أولياء من لا يتخذ المؤمنون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين. لا, not. يتخذ, to make. المؤمنون, the believers. Al-kafirin, disbelievers. Awliya is the plural of wali, and wali means friend. So awliya would mean friends. So la yattakhizil mu'minun al-kafirina, awliya would mean, if I translate it literally, that not take the believers, the disbelievers, friends. So idiomatically it would mean that the believers should not take the disbelievers to be their friends. And again, a word of caution, min dunil mu'minin, which means, mindu means without, or without the interest, or against the interest is still a better translation. Against the interest, al mu'minin, of the believers. So what is said here is that that the believers should not make friends with the disbelievers against the interest of the believers. So we have to make this allowance here, that what the Quran is not prohibiting friendship with the disbelievers. It is telling us that if this friendship goes against the interests of the Muslims, then this should not take place. Wa, and, man, who, yaf'al, does, zalika, this. So he who does this, wa man yaf'al zalika, and he who does this, fa, therefore, laysa, not, minallahi, from God, fi shay'in, in it, anything. So literally it would mean that falaysa minallahi fi shay'in would mean that they have no connection with God, they have no relation with God, illa, except, an, tattaqu mean that they do this in a way to protect or to secure themselves, minhum, from it. So tuqah, this is a very special Arabic construction, in which basically what you can understand is tattaqu and tuqah have to be taken simultaneously, and it's like a construction which spells out an emphasis and stress, and the whole meaning would be that those who do this, and those who do what? Those who make friends, with the disbelievers against the interest of the believers, those who do this, so they will have no relationship with God except if the purpose is to protect yourself. And tattaqu minhum, and tuqa mean in the best possible way. Tattaqu, tuqa, as I said, is a construction that is specific to Arabic and means to protect someone in the best possible way. So if this is something to be done, then it should be in a way that you are doing this only to protect yourself. wa, and yuhazzirukum. So yuhazzirukumullah. Yuhazziru means to strike fear. Kum, in you. Allah is God. So God strikes fear in you. Wa yuhazzirukumullahu nafsahu, and from his own self. So nafsahu is referring to God himself. So yuhazzirukum, he strikes fear or strikes awe, kum, in you. So God strikes awe in you. And how does he do that? It says that this is something that he does from himself. So God frightens you, God scares you of himself, again implying the fact that you need to understand that as far as the Almighty is concerned, he is not going to in any way let this go scot-free. If you start making the disbelievers as your friends, and that too so that in a way that they are against the interest of the Muslims. And remember, this is also something that we have to understand, that as far as the Quran is concerned, the word al-kafir, of course, has been used here, and this refers not to all types of disbelievers. Specifically in this context, it refers to believers who have deliberately denied the truth or intentionally denied the truth. And this is something, again, which is specific to the era of God's messengers, because today we are in no position to call anyone a kafir, because we are in no position to point out whether he's denying something deliberately or not, because denying deliberately is something only God can know. Even prophets of God are not able to know this. So in the time of his messengers, it is God who communicates to his messengers who a kafir is, because disbelief is something that relates to one's heart and one's intent and one's inner feelings and inner thoughts, which of course even a prophet is not able to in any way gauge, and unless the Almighty tells the prophet. So this is a very important area in the Quran, and it has misled many, because people, by studying this verse, and there are a couple of other verses of the same meaning, they come to this conclusion that we cannot make friends with the disbelievers. So وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ النَّفْسَ وَإِلَى اللَّهِ الْمَصِيرُ. Wa, and ila, towards Allah, God, al-masir, the resting place. So towards God is the resting place, again referring to the fact that this is where everyone is going to go, and he is someone that he's waiting for people to come to him. Of course, there is a interval for this, and there is a small respite that he have given everyone, but this is going to happen. So before I move forward with the rest of the translation, so if you have any questions regarding what we have just studied, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Thank you for the explanation and the translation. Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
डॉक्टर साहब, यहाँ पर जो गर्रा का लफ्ज आया है, ये कुरान में कई जगह पर आया है, कहीं गर्रत गर्रत के हिसाब से है, तो मतलब ये मुजक्कर और मुन्नस के उससे आता है ना, कि गर्रा और गर्रत।
राइट।
और इसका मतलब एक तो दोबारा से बता दें गर्रा का, और दूसरा वो जो तुकातन है ना, उसका एग्जैक्टली जो वर्ड है वो नहीं, उसका मीनिंग नहीं समझ आया।
So गर्रा means to deceive, and when the file or the subject of the verb is masculine, as is the case here, ma kanu yaftarun. So ma kanu is masculine. So that is why the word gharra is used. Had we be having something feminine, then the verb would have been gharrat. So basically, it's not. I mean, there's no difference in meaning. Both will have the same meaning. The only thing is that the difference in gharra and gharrat is that when the subject of the verb is a masculine noun, we'll always have gharra. When it's a feminine noun, it will be gharrat. So that's a simple Arabic rule. As far as tuqa is concerned, it actually refers to tattaqu. So it is the masdar, or the past participle, or the participle as we know. The participle in the Arabic language is always or mostly implied to create stress in the verb. So basically, it is tattaqu tuqa. Tattaqu tuqa would mean to protect yourself the way you should protect yourself, to protect yourself in a very emphatic way. So to create this emphasis in the Arabic language, the participle is expressed or stated with the verb. I mean, this is slightly technical, but for all intents and purposes, you can just understand this to mean that basically it's a word that creates stress in the word tattaqu.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. Naushad Shafkat, you're up next.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Sab, you just mentioned that believers are not to befriend disbelievers. Again, if it goes against the interests of the believers. Now, is that time specific or the reason specific, as you stated? Because
Both.
generally, it is believed that it applied only at
Hmm.
the time when these verses were revealed.
I mean, it was basically, of course, because the word kafir is not used, cannot be used for these non-Muslims of today. So it was basically, it refers to the disbelievers of the times of the prophets of God. It does not refer to disbelievers of today. So yes, it is time specific, number one. And number two, even in the case of being a kafir, if the Almighty points out that, well, such and such people have turned to disbelief deliberately, even for them, there was an exception that yes, you could have made friends with them if that friendship was not going against the interest of the Muslims. So even in those times, this was an exception.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. There are no more questions at the time,
Okay.
so you can continue.
So let's continue. So قُلْ إِن تُخْفُوا مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ أَوْ تُبْدُوهُ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. قُلْ, say, in, if, تُخْفُوا, you hide, say if you hide, ma, what, fi, in, sudur, sudurikum. So sudur is the plural of sadr, and sadr means chest. So sudurikum would mean your chests. Au, or, tubduhu, you reveal it. Ya'lamhullah, God knows it. Ya'lamhullah, God knows it. So what the Prophet is being told that he should convey this message to these disbelievers. In tukhfu ma fi anfusikum, in tukhfu ma fi sudurikum, aw tubduhu. So whether you in tukhfu, what you hide in your chests, ma fi sudurikum, what you hide in your chests, aw tubduhu, or what you reveal. Ya'lamullah, it is in the knowledge of God. So whether you hide something or whether you say something, ya'lamullah, God knows it. وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Wa, and ya'lamu, and he knows ma, what, or that is what, we, fi, in, samawat is the plural of sama and means heavens or skies. Wa, and ma, what, fi, in, al-ard, the earth. So he knows what is in the heavens. وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ, he knows what is in the heavens. Wa, and he knows what is in the earth. Ma fil ard. Ma is what, fi is in, al ard is the earth. So he knows what is in the heavens and he knows what is in the earth. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. This verse has also, this is repeated a number of times in the Quran. Wa, and Allah, God, ala, on, kulli, everything, shay, thing, qadir, dominant or powerful. So wallahu ala kulli shayin qadir, literally it would mean, and God on everything powerful, and God on everything powerful. And of course, idiomatically it would mean that God has power over everything. God has power over everything. يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضرا وما عملت من سوء. So, Yawma, remember the day. So, this is an Arabic construction in which there is a verb which is suppressed. So, there is something like Uzkur Yawma. Uzkur means bear in mind, keep in mind. And that verb is not expressed in words, but the accusative declension, which means that the way the word Yawma is expressed here, it tells us that there is a verb suppressed. So, Yawma would mean remember the day. Tajidu. So tajidu would mean tajidu kullu nafsin actually. Kullu nafs means every soul tajidu will find. The day find every soul. The day find every soul ma amilat, what it did. So remember the day when every soul will find what it did. Of course, referring to the past, in the past. Min khairin, from good. So remember the day when every soul will come to know what it did from goodness, from good. Muhdaran, and muhdaran would mean in front of them. In front of, so this is like telling people that don't forget that on the day of judgment, every one will be confronted, everyone will encounter what it did, what every soul did. Ma amilat, what it did. what it acted out, as the word literally would mean. Min khair, from amongst good things. Muhtaran, in front of him. Wa, and ma, what amilat, it did. Min, from su, evil things. So remember the day when every soul will be confronted with what it did from good things, and remember the day when every soul will be confronted with what it did amongst bad things. So it's like a balanced statement. Tawaddu. So tawaddu would mean law anna, that it will yearn, that soul will yearn. Tawaddu, law, what that, or it would be something like uh, it will wish. Tawaddu law, it will wish. Anna, that. Bainaha, baina means between, ha, it, between it, wa, and bainahu, between them, between that, between it and between that. So it referring, the first it is referring to the soul itself, and the second it is referring to the day. So remember the day when every soul will long that there anna bainaha wa bainahu, that between it and between that day. Amadan means a period of time. Ba'ida would means a long period of time. So literally, as I can see, you would understand this, that tawaddu law means that every soul would like that between it and between the day there is a long distance. Of course, referring to this yearning that would that they had not reached here. It's like telling people that now that they have come here and they have nothing but to face ignominy. So every soul will wish that, well, had there been a long distance between the soul, that person himself or herself, and this day, of course, implying that so long should have been that distance that that person would have never come here. So this is what the longing is about. وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا. So وَيُحَذِّرُ, to strike fear or to strike awe, kum, in you, Allah, God, nafsahu, about himself. So God strikes fear in people or in you from himself. Again, in the same meaning, Wallahu ra'ufum bil ibad, wa, and Allah, God. So Ra'uf is someone who is very, very gracious and very compassionate. Be, towards al-ibad. So ibad is the plural of abd. So ibad is the plural of abd, or servants. So, and God is very, very gracious to his servants. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم. قل, say, in, if, kuntum, you, if you, tuhibbuna, you love, Allah, God. So again, this is something which the Prophet is being asked to convey to the people in front of him. In kuntum tuhibbun Allah, if you love God, fattabi'uni, follow me. So the Prophet is telling them, if you love God, then follow me. Yuhbibkumullah, yuhbibkum, love you, God. Allah is God. So God will love you. So if you love God, follow me, God will love you in return. That is what is implied here. Wa, and yaghfir lakum, forgive your. Zunub again is the plural of zamb, and zamb means sin. Kum is yours. So God will forgive your sins. Yaghfir lakum, he will forgive for you your sins. This is what the literal meaning is. So look, lakum is for you, zunubakum is your sins. He will forgive for you your sins. Wa, and Allah is God. Ghafur, again, someone who forgives. Rahim is merciful, and God is forgiving and merciful. Qul, tell. So again, the Prophet is being told to convey this message to the people in front of him. Ati'u means obey. Allah, God. Wa, and. Rasul, the messenger. So obey God and the messenger. Obey God and the messenger. Fa'in, therefore if. Fa'in, therefore if. Tavallaw, they turn away. They turn away. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ, even if after many, so therefore if they turn away, therefore inna, indeed, Allah, God, La, not. Yuhibbu, loves. Al-kafirin, the disbelievers. So if they turn away, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, then remember that God does not like these disbelievers or such disbelievers. إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحًا وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ عِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. So this is, viewers, we have discussed this, that this is the start of the surah itself. It was on verse 32 that the introductory portion of the surah ended. And now, if you can see, the surah, we've discussed this earlier as well, is going to chart sheet the Christians or the Nazarenes and bring them to light at how they violated the covenant of God. And for this, a portion of their own history is cited, and how Imran, of course, Imran bin Matan, who's the grandfather of Jesus, and he's discussed, and how Mary gave birth to Jesus in a miraculous way. So this is a part of their history that is being discussed. It's like a prelude to the actual chart sheet which is going to come after that. So Inna Allah hastafa Adama wa Nuhan wa ala Ibrahim wa ala Imran ala al-alamin. Inna, indeed, Allah is God. Istafa. Istafa means to choose. Adama, Adam, wa, and Nuhan is Noah, wa, and ala Ibrahim. So ala Ibrahim means Abraham's progeny or Abraham's family. Wa, and al, family. Imran, of course, referring to Imran bin Matan, who's the maternal grandfather of Jesus. So what is said here is that indeed God has chosen Adam and Noah and the progeny of Abraham and the progeny of Imran, ala, over, al-alamin, the rest of the world. So indeed God has chosen Adam and Noah and the progeny of Abraham and the progeny of Imran over rest of the world. Again, this is something that has to be understood, that just chosen is not something that they are some special people or they have some special status in the eyes of God in the hereafter. It means that they have been chosen for a certain task. So istafa, to choose someone in the language of the Quran, means to give that person or that group of people some responsibility. And we know from other parts of the Quran that this responsibility was to bear witness to the truth. And this is how God said it. In the beginning, individual personalities were chosen for this task. And later on, Abraham's progeny became very specific for this, and God chose him for this. Zurriyatam ba'duha mim ba'd. So Zurriyatam ba'duha mim ba'd means, Zuriya means progeny or children. Ba'duha, some of them. Min ba'd, from some of them. So this is a very, very eloquent and precise Arabic sentence implying that they are the progeny of one another, which means that they are from one another. It's not that they are aliens to one another. And so therefore, you have to understand that they are the progeny of one another, and whatever they have been, saying or acting out is something which is always in the knowledge of God, and they should not think that this is something which is beyond him. Why? Because Allahu Sami'un Alim. Wa, and Allah is God. Sami, who hears, Alim, who knows. So they are the progeny of one another. So they are the progeny of one another, and they should know this, that God is aware of what they do, and He is aware of what they are conducting in their own lives. So it's something of a assurance on the one hand, and also a warning on the other. So now we come to the portion in which the birth of course, we know this birth process is something that has been going in a way that the wife of Imran was expecting some child which she could dedicate for the temple, but we know that as the Quran tells us, that instead of a male child, she was given a female child, a daughter, who was named as Mary, and she was pleasantly taken aback. But as we can see from the later verses of the Quran, that she not only fulfilled what she had been vowed, or the mother had vowed for her, she went far beyond the call of duty in doing so. So is qalat imra'at, is, remember, qalat, said, imra'atu Imran is one word. So imra'atu Imran means the woman of Imran, or it is just like saying that the wife of Imran. So remember, when the wife of Imran said, what did she say? Rabbi, God, inni, me, or I, nazartu. Nazartu means I dedicate laka, to you. I dedicate it to you. Ma fi batni, whatever is in my womb. Whatever is in my womb. So batn, of course, is the Arabic for the stomach. But of course, this is again a very interesting thing that you have to maybe gauge here as well. That in our languages, the way things progress is not always the same. So we would never say this in our own language, that there is a child in our stomach, would we? So this is something that we have to understand, that the word, although button means the stomach, but it is actually referring in an idiom to the womb in which the child is actually lodged in. So, but this is something that would never be said in other languages. For example, in other languages, the word womb would be used, or some other appropriate word. So, what Imran's wife is saying is that I dedicate to you, oh God, I dedicate to you ma fi batni, whatever is in my womb, muharraran. So, muharraran would be by making her absolved of all responsibilities, by making her absolved. She's being purely dedicated to your service, O God. Fatakabbal, therefore, takabbal, accept it. Minni, from me. So accept this from me is what is implied, that I dedicate what is in my womb to you, to your service. Fatakabbal, so accept it. Minni, from me. Innaka, indeed you. Anta is another is just a stress to further stress ka. So literally it would mean indeed you, which of course means indeed only you. So in the Arabic language, when the words are repeated like this, they add to the stress. So indeed, literally it would mean indeed you, and idiomatically it would mean indeed only you. Indeed only you, as-Sami al-Alim. As-Sami, who hears, Al-Alim, who has knowledge. So of course, who fully hears, who has full hearing, who can hear everything, and who has full knowledge is what is implied here. Otherwise, of course, we also hear and we also see. But what is being said here is that a real person, the complete hearing, if anyone can be called, who has complete hearing and complete knowledge, then it is only God. So innaka anta samiul alim would mean only you is the one who literally fully hears and who fully has full knowledge. Falamma, therefore when, therefore lamma, when, wada'atha. So wada'atha means she gave birth to her. Qalat, she said, Rabbi, O Lord, inni, I, wada'tuha, given birth to her, untha, a girl. So she was expecting a boy, but when she saw that she has been given a girl by God, she said, inni wada'tuha unsa, I have given birth to a girl. Wallahu a'lamu bima wada'at. And God, a'lamu, knows full well, bima, what, wada'at, she gave birth to. So this is like a very meaningful sentence. So she was pleasantly taken aback when she said, well, I was expecting a boy, and she said, well, I have delivered a child. And now this is a very parenthetical sentence in which God says, well, he knows full well what she has delivered, which means that God has knowledge of what the attributes of this woman would be, how she would grow up, how she would be kept in a very chaste manner, but she would herself keep herself very righteous and very pure and very pious. So, Wallahu alamu bima wadat is actually a sentence which says that this is what God had in mind, that she will give birth to a girl. Walaysa zakaru kal unsa, wa, and laysa, not, az-zakar, the boy, ka, like, unsa, the girl, and the boy is not like the girl. So she said that boy would not have been like this girl. I mean, she didn't know that she has given birth to a profound person, and she said, well, okay, God has blessed me with being a girl, then I accept her. But at the same time, had I been blessed with a boy, he would not have been like her, implying that he perhaps would have been much more dedicated and fit for the task that she was praying for. So inni, I, sammaituha, name her. Sammaituha, name her. Maryam or Mary. So I name her as Mary. I give her the name Mary. Wa, and inni, I, u'izuha bika. U'izuha, I give her into your refuge. Bika, I give her into your refuge. Ha, her. So I give her, u'izuha, I give her, bika. So u'izuha mean I give her in refuge, bika, your. So I give her in your refuge, wa, and zurriyataha, and her children, and her progeny on, and her descendants and her children. So what she's saying is that I have named her Mary, and I give her in your refuge, and I also give her children into your refuge. So it's like a grandmother praying for the daughter and for the grandchildren who are yet to be born. So I give her and her children into your refuge, minash shaitanir rajim, from the accursed Satan. Shaitan, Satan, a regime who is accursed. So I give her in your possession, in your refuge, so that you can protect her. Therefore, تقبلها ربها بقبول حسن. So therefore, تقبلها, accepted her, ربها, her Lord. So Mary's mother, when she made this prayer that God please accept her, dedicate her to your service. So, and she prayed this, and in response, God said, "Taqabbalaha rabbuha," that her Lord has accepted her daughter for this service. "Fataqabbalaha rabbuha," and then biqabulin hasanin, in a very refined way. He has magnanimously accepted this girl, biqabulin hasanin, in a very refined way. وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا. Ambataha nabatan hasana would mean that he has, it's something we have to take into account, that she has sown her in the best possible way. So this is the literal meaning. So ambata means to plant something as you plant a seed or something. So of course this is not implied here, but it's metaphorically being used for the fact that he has made her grow nabatan hasana in a beautiful way, which means that Mary was given a very pious childhood. Ambataha nabatan hasana. So God helped her in becoming a very pious lady. Ambataha nabatan hasana. So He made her develop into a pious child. Wa kaffalaha Zakariya. Wa, and kaffala means to give into the custodianship. Her. So God gave her into the custodianship of Zacharias. So in Zachariah is in Arabic, but in the English Bible we call him as Zacharias. So God gave her into the custodianship of Zacharias, and Zacharias is the paternal uncle of Mary. So basically, it's a paternal uncle of her. I mean, it's like he is the husband of her sisters. So this is what we will say. He is the paternal uncle. So for kaffalaha of Mary, for kaffalaha Zakaria, kullama dakhala alayha Zakaria al-mihrab, kullama, whenever, dakhala, entered, alayha, upon her. So whenever Zacharias would enter upon her, kullama dakhala alayha Zakaria, and where would be that? Al-mihrab. So in the ancient temples, or as is the case here, the temple here refers not, the mihrab does not here refer here to the turrets that we have today, but in the ancient tradition they refer to various abodes and dedicated rooms where people would just station themselves and worship the Almighty. So this is what is implied here. So kullama dakhala alayha Zakaria al-mihraba. So whenever Zacharias would enter upon her, when she was in a mihrab, when she would be in a dedicated room, wajada indaha rizqa, he would find indaha, near her, rizqa, sustenance. He would find near her sustenance. And this, of course, would make him, he would be astounded at what he would see. And we have already explained this, that the word rizq is not referring exactly to the fruits as it has generally been understood. Rizq here refers to divine guidance. The wisdom and the way she would speak to Zacharias, and the way she would present herself and her case and her statements would be such that it would be overflowing with this divine wisdom. And this is precisely what is referred to by the word rizq here. Qal. So Zacharias would say, Ya Maryam, O Mary, Anna, where? Lucky you, Haza, this. So where have you got this from? Anna lucky Haza, where have you got this from? Qalat, she would reply, Huwa, these, from Indillah, God. So this is from God. Whatever you find with me is from God. It's not my own It's not my own effort that has produced these things. If I am able to talk to you in a way that has profound wisdom, then this is a blessing of God on me. Inna Allah yarzuqu man yasha'u bighayri hisab. So inna is indeed. Allah is God. Yarzuqu, He gives sustenance. Man, to whom, to yasha, He wants to, bighayri hisab, without any limit, without any measure. So indeed, God gives sustenance to whomsoever He wants to, without any limit, without any measure. So, if we have any questions up till now, I can take a break here before we finish off the rest of the passage. So, please, if you have any questions, let me know.
Shazia Khan, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab. I had a question about the verse. It was earlier. Tawaddu allahu bainahu wa bainaha amadan
Tabaddu,
ba'idan.
okay. Right.
I don't know bainahu or whatever. The bainaha is definitely for the nafs, but the bainahu in another translation I was reading was about the amalat su'in, like it was about the bad deeds, that there was a huge distance between the bad deeds and the soul, so that he is not punished about it. So
I mean,
why do you think
it
it's
will
about
amount.
the young?
It will amount to the same thing. I mean, it's saying that tabaddu law anna bainaha wa bainahu amadam baida. If you take it to be the bad deed, that is a possibility grammatically. And if you take the word yom, because that has been mentioned earlier as well, so basically it would be an expression of the fact that that person says that would that I have not even arrived to see my bad deed on this day. So would that a huge distance would have separated me from this day. So ultimately, I mean, the implied meaning would come out to the same, that because on that day he would be faced with his bad deeds. So that is what has made him express this longing. So grammatically, that is possible as well.
Because I was just thinking, is there any other example, any other verse in Quran which can support that there is a distance between the day of judgment and the nafs? Like,
I mean,
even the
this
good
is
nafs will think of that, because if we say that it's the day of judgment, both the nafses are mentioned, the one that amalat khairam muhdaran and amalat suin, both of
Suan.
them. So is it
Mhm.
the nafs, like each nafs, even if it is good or bad,
No, it's
will
just for the bad one. I mean, the good
just
ones would be happy to be there because, of course, for them, they would be facing good deeds. It is basically these people who would be facing their bad deeds that they would say that I wish or we wish that we had not even arrived here, at such an instance. So basically, this is something that has been expressed at other instances of the Quran as well, that they will long to go back in this world and they would say that, please give us another chance.
yeah.
This has been mentioned at other instances.
Okay. Thank you, Jazakallah.
Akram Bhatti Saab, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Sorry,
Sir, I need to ask clarification on two words, if you would allow me. One is, we just read a couple of ayah ago, Bil Ibad, and then in I think 3:182 it comes Lil Abid. So what is the difference? And they're both plural of Abd.
So let me first see which verse are you referring to? In Allah,
3:182. Bil Ibad, we just passed.
yes, I remember that. So that is because the word has been used as basir. So the preposition which comes with basir is always ba. So it's like understanding that, you see, for every verb there is a specific preposition. I mean, when I say I go to my room, so I will not say, I mean, like the word to is a preposition with the verb go. So it collocates with the word go. So similarly, the word basir, whenever you will use the word basir, the appropriate preposition for it is ba. You will not say basirun lil ibad. You'll always find it basirun bil ibad. But wama huwa bizallamin lil abid is the word, another verse in which the word la is used. So here the word is not used as a preposition, and so to speak, of the verb. It's basically telling us that he is not a person who is unjust at all towards his servants. So Zallam, the word Zallam is connected with La here. And here the word Basir is connected with Bay. So both of these words have separate connections. I mean, the separate way they would connect with the rest of the sentence. So basara be is something that is common in Arabic, and zalam le would be another thing. So I mean, I've tried to make a little sense of it, but to be honest, this is something that you will only have a good grasp of if you start learning, or maybe give more time to Quranic Arabic. This is because this is how Quranic in Quranic Arabic prepositions, they have pairs with words, and a certain preposition will never come with another verb. So
Okay.
basara la will never take place. Basara ba is always something that will take place. So this is like a grammatical rule, and as you proceed in studying Arabic, you'll get to know this. This is some of the very basic ones.
And Abid and Abad, they both separate words are the plural
Oh, abid and abad. So
Ji. Abid and
ibad is the plural of abd,
Ji. And
and
Abid,
abid is also another plural. So these are plurals basically.
so the both plural of the, right?
Yes.
both
The
plural of
singular.
abd.
Yes, the singular is abd.
Okay. Can I ask you the question? Should have waited for my turn. Can I ask you the question, ma'am?
please.
Can-
If it relates to the passages that we have studied, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yes, it is. See here, fataqabbala and
Mhm.
ambataha.
Yes.
I know the tha is for the fi'l muzari, but
Mm.
it's a second person, and it has been translated. You also translated like third person.
Yes.
Fataqabbalaha
Ambataha.
is ambataha. So why
Because it's
is
God.
that?
Because
Yes,
God is the subject of the word. Ambataha nabatan hasana means Allahu ambataha. Basically, this is what is being said. God made her develop into a pious person. It's ambataha. The subject of this verb is God. Ambataha.
we're talking about, and
So basically, it's
my
ambata.
understanding is
He
like
made her into a goodly child. He made her.
and I understand the translation. I know that's what you are saying, but
So
my
it's
question
the ta
is,
here is not for, it's not for the
Muzari,
feminine gender. It's part of the word. Ambata is a word. Had it been feminine, it would have been ambatat. So it's ambata is a masculine verb. So God is the subject of this. So ambataha would mean that God planted her. Literally, it would mean that God planted her.
so the tha is not up for Muzari. It's not
for Mazar. No.
Okay.
It's part of the verb. Ambata is itself a verb. It's also a complete word. For Muzare, it would have been ambatat. And of course, that would be ambata yumbito, basically. So it would be yumbitat.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my confusion.
Ambatat. Mhm.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
ये जो अल्लाह हुआ मालिकुल मुल्क उसकी अभी आपने तफसीर बतानी है कि उसमें से पूछना था मुझे अभी सिर्फ वर्ड्स की सवाल कर
No, we have already done the tafsir part in our previous session. But
जी
you
वो
can ask
उसी का
if
पूछना
you
था
have any question.
कि वो जो अल्लाह हुआ मालिकुल मुल्क है उसको हमने जब तफसीर में पढ़ा था तो उसको हम जनरली लेते थे ना कि यानी कि अल्लाह ताला जो है वो जब मुल्क लेता है या मुल्क छीनता है या किसी को इख्तियार देता है तो वो अल्लाह ताला ही इंटरवीन करता है। तो ये क्या इसको कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लेंगे इस आयत को या फिर हम जनरली भी इसको ले सकते हैं?
No.
क्योंकि
This
ये
has
तो
a
अभी
very
तो
specific.
कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है
Yes, this
जी,
is a
ये तो
very
बिल्कुल
specific.
स्पेसिफिक है लेकिन
It's a
क्या
very
जनरली
specific verse, but of
जी
course
वो
it,
तो
it
ठीक है
implies the fact that whenever God takes sovereignty from someone and grants it to another, although the context here is very specific to the Ishmaelites and they have been given the sovereignty, and the Israelites are the ones from whom this sovereignty is being snatched away or taken away. So, but in reality, you can extend this verse to understand that whenever this happens or wherever this happens, it happens with the will of God and it happens with His authority. So that is a generalization that you can understand from the verse. But specifically in this context, what is being said here as these Ishmaelites are now being given this authority, this sovereignty, and this has been taken away from the Israelites. So in the context, it refers to this act of confiscating sovereignty from the Israelites and then granting it to the Ishmaelites.
और उसमें एक लफ्ज ये भी होता है ना कि अल्लाह की मशीयत से होता है और एक होता है कि अल्लाह की रजा। तो अब ये वाली जो आयत है अगर इसको हम जनरली लें तो ये अल्लाह की मशीयत मतलब उसकी जो उसने
I
फ्रीडम
mean,
दिया है
you see,
उसके तहत
the
होगा.
word, the Urdu word mashiyat and raza are the same. I mean, they are synonymous words. They don't have a different meaning. Both mean the desire of God, the will of God. Mashiyat and raza, though both imply the same thing.
अच्छा, हम लोग इसको थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस लेते हैं कि मशीयत का मतलब है कि जो अल्लाह ने आजादी दी हुई है उसके तहत इंसान जो कुछ करता है, और रजा ये कि उसकी चॉइस.
No, you see, tasha is God's will. I mean, it's not referring to the independence which God gives to other. This word, in this complete passage, is referring to God's will. It's not to the will of the people. God gives this freedom, or God gives this blessing to whomsoever He wants. So it's the reference here is God Himself.
ओके, थैंक यू.
Hello, Shabnam. Please ask your question.
ओके, थैंक यू. सर, ये आपने सस्टेनेंस का जिक्र किया कि इट वाज बेसिकली
Hmm.
विजडम जो
Yes.
मरियम को दी गई. तो सर,
Yes.
दोनों भी हो सकते हैं. मतलब हम ये क्यों नहीं कंसीडर करें कि जो पॉपुलर अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि खाने पीने की चीजें भी थी, तो मतलब व्हाट्स द इसको ना
I
एक्सेप्ट
mean,
करने में.
this would mean out of context that what is the what exactly is the background that he would find a lot of fruit spread around or scattered around Mary, and then the next verse says Hunalika da'a Zakariya. So it would mean that as soon as Zacharias saw these fruits being scattered around Mary, he raised his hand in prayer and said, "Oh God, grant me a child." I mean, this is how it would be literally mean,
Yes.
because you see, it comes right after
Yeah.
that. The previous verse is that he would find Mary to have all this, let's say, if the word fruit is used, that he will have all this fruit around herself, and then she would ask, "Where have you got this from? I mean, where have you got this fruit
Correct,
from?"
sir.
And the reply would be that this is something that God has given her, because He gives to whomsoever He wants to. And then he said, "Okay, is this the case? Then okay, I'm going to pray to God." And I mean, that should have been easily something that he should have prayed in consonance with what he has seen. So it would have been more appropriate to say that, "God, I pray for some fruit for myself as well." But instead of that,
Right, sir.
when he saw this wisdom and he saw how Mary was talking, and he said that, well, this is how God conducts Himself. So Hunalika da'a Zakariya, immediately he went up and he raised his hand in prayer that, "God, give me such a heir as well." So this is
Right,
how
sir.
I mean, it would connect.
Thank you very much, sir.
Otherwise, does not make sense. I mean, this can only be a translation if you just sever the context. You don't look at the verse which comes right after and the verse which becomes to prior to it. If you sever the context and just look at the verse, of course, then you can translate the way generally people have.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Ruhi Rasool, please unmute your mic and ask your question. I have a question, Dr. Saleem. So is Rehem not womb?
It is.
The word Rehem?
Yes, it is.
But here is a different word that's been used for womb.
Batni. You see, this is what we call an idiom. An idiom is when we say that, and literally it would mean that I am carrying a child in my stomach. So batan is the word which is used for your stomach. And it is also
Okay.
because the word batan is used for the front abdominal part. So it is more appropriate to translate it as the womb, because the abdominal region, or the region of the stomach, is something which, I mean, overlaps, you can see. But what the point that I was trying to make was that the word batan is, I mean, it's like an idiom in the Arabic language. When you say that I have a child in my womb, you will not say that I have a child in my rahim, so to speak. You'll say, inni laka mafi batni, I have it in my button, in my stomach, literally. But the word stomach is not implying stomach here. So it's basically an idiom in which the word stomach is actually implying the womb. Because you see, this is how things are. We don't carry a child in the stomach.
Exactly. Okay, thank you so much. So Ruhi Rasool, again, if you want to ask your question, you can go on, Dr. Saleem. There's no more questions at this time.
Okay. So, Hunalika da'a Zakariya Rabba. Hunalika, at the same time, at the same instance, da'a, Zacharias raised his hand. Zachariah, Rabba, towards his Lord. So as soon as he saw this risk around Mary, of course referring to her wisdom and the way she would speak to him, he immediately raised his hand and said, Rabbi habli min ladunka zurriyatan tayyiba. Rabbi, O Lord, hab, give, li min. me, min from, ladunka yourself, zurriyatan child, tayyiba pious. So idiomatically it would mean that he said, Lord, give me from yourself a pious child. So remember, Zacharias was also a fatherless person, and he was at a ripe old age that he was still fatherless. So when he saw this miraculous happening with Mary, he said that if this is something that can happen to Mary, maybe I can also pray to God. So he said, the Quran says, Hunalika da'a Zakariya. At the same instance, when he got so inspired, da'a Zakariya Rabbah, that Zacharias prayed to his Lord. And what did he pray? He said, Rabbi habli min ladunka zurriyatan tayyiba. Oh Lord, habli grant me, min from, ladunka yourself, zurriya, child, tayyiba, pious. So grant me from yourself a pious child. Innaka sami'ud du'a. Innaka, indeed you, sami', listener, du'a, the prayer. So indeed you are a listener to the prayer, which means you are a person who answers and hears the petitions of people. فَنَادَتْهُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي فِي الْمِحْرَابِ. Therefore, nadat, called, who, him, al-malaika, the angels. So the angels called him. Who? Of course, referring to Zacharias. So the angels called Zacharias. وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ. When he was qaim, when he was standing, yusalli, praying, fil mihrab, in his room or in his dedicated place. So the angels called him, and this happened when Zacharias was praying in his mihrab, of course, that abode. And what did they say? Annallaha, that Allah, God, yubashiruka, gives glad tidings to you. Biyahya, of the word Yahya, of course, the way it has been mentioned here, we would use it as John in the English language. The word John connotes the same person. So the God gives you the glad tidings of John. Musaddiqan, he would be a person who shall confirm, Musaddiqan, who will confirm, bikalimatim, a word, minallah, from God, who shall confirm a kalima or a word from God referring to Jesus. We know from Bible history that John or Yohanna was someone, or Yahya was someone who actually foretold the arrival of Jesus, and Jesus himself has been called Kalimatullah. So when it is said, Musaddiqam bi kalimatin minallah, he will confirm the arrival of Jesus. That is what is called about Yahya. And he would be a kalima from God, he would be a word from God. Wa, and Sayyidan. Sayyid means, in the Arabic language, Sayyid means a leader, a chief. He would be a chief, he would be a leader. Wa, and Hasuran. Hasur means someone who is extremely pious and abstinent, who does not indulge. So a person who does not indulge is who is called Hasur. Wa, and Nabiyan, he would be a prophet, minas salihin, from the righteous. So basically these angels said to Zacharias whilst he was praying in the mihrab that God gives you glad tidings of Yahya or John, who is going to confirm a word of God, of course referring to Jesus, and he will be a chief, and he will be abstinent, and he will be a prophet, and he will be from among the righteous. So a Nabiya min as-salihin, he would be from among the righteous servants of God. Qala, he said, Rabbi, Lord, Anna, how, yakunu, happen, li, for me. How will this happen for me? Ghulamun, ghulam means a boy. So how will a boy happen for me? Implying that how can I be the heir to a son? How can I have a boy? وَقَدْ بَلَغَنِي الْقِبَرِ. Wa, and qad, indeed, balagani, reached me, kibar, old age. So how can I have a child when old age has come to me? Balagani, come to me, al-kibar, old age. Wa, and imrati, my wife. Imrati, my wife, aqir. She cannot bear, she is past her marriageable age. She cannot bear children. She is barren. So the surprise which is expressed by Zacharias is that how is it that I will be able to bear a child, to give birth to a child? I myself am an old man, and my wife, she is barren. How can this happen? Qala kazalika Allahu yaf'alu ma yasha. So he said, kazalika Allah, in this manner, kazalika, in this manner, Allah, God, yaf'alu, does ma yasha, what he wants. So in this manner, God does what He wants. So, and what does He want? When He will not, if He would like to give someone a child, then He is going to bless that person with a child, even if he is an old person and if his wife is barren. And then Zachariah said, Qala Rabbi ja'al li ayah. Qala, he said, Rabbi, O Lord, ij'al, make li for me, ayah, a sign. So because he thought that this is something which is, this is something which can, as a human being, he wanted some assurance. He said, please prescribe or grant me some sign from yourself. Make a sign for me. Qala, he said, ayatuka, your sign, Allah, not. Tukallima, you will speak. An-nasa, people. Salasata, 3. Ayyam, days. Illa, except. Ramza, through signs. So he said that the sign would be that you'll not be able to speak for people in 3 days. And for 3 days, you'll not be able to speak with people except through signs. Illa Ramza, except through signs. Wazkur, therefore remember, Rabbaka, your Lord, Kathira, copiously, abundantly, wa, and sabbih, glorify Him, bil ashiyi, at the time, glorify Him at the time that is the day, wal ibkar, and of course ashiyi referring to the morning time and ibkar referring to the evening time. So sorry, it's the reverse. Ashiyi is referring to the evening time and ibkar is the morning time. So wasabbih bil ashiyi wal ibkar, glorify Him in the morning and the evening. So this is the assurance that has been given to him. وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Wa, and, is, remember. قالت, said. Al-Malaika, the angels. And remember when the angels said, Ya Maryam, O Mary. Ya Maryam, O Mary. Inna, indeed, Allah, God. Istafaki. Istafaki means He has chosen you. Indeed, God has chosen you. Wa, and tahharaki, and He has purified you. He has chosen you and He has purified you. Wastafaki ala nisa'il alameen, and He has chosen you over. Allah is over. Nisa is women. Alameen, of the world. So He has chosen you above the rest of the women of the world, which of course refers to the exalted status of Mary. Ya Maryam, uqnuti li rabbiki. So Ya Maryam, O Mary. Uqnuti is something which is to be read in isolation, but when you read it by joining it with the previous word, it would be Ya Maryam uqnuti. So Ya Maryam uqnuti, O Mary, be obedient li rabbiki, towards your Lord. Wa, and usjudi. And when we read it by joining with the previous word, it would be wasjudi. So wasjudi would mean that you prostrate. Ba, and irkai, and again when you join it, it would be warkai. So warkai is you kneel. Ma, with arraqeen, those who kneel. So Ya Maryam, O Mary, be uqnuti li rabbiki, be obedient to God, remain obedient to God, wasjudi, and prostrate before Him, warkai, and kneel with those who kneel. Okay. Zalika min amba'il ghaibi nuhihi ilayka. So this is a very beautiful verse, the way it, if you are able to grasp the Arabic language, that the Quran actually says that this is the news of the unknown. And of course, the Prophet was not aware of this. He could not have known all these details. And this is one of the proofs of his prophethood, that he is presented the true version of what happened to Mary in that era, and how she was given birth to, and how her own mother had prayed for a dedicated son, but she actually received a child, a female child. So these are the details which now the Quran is telling us. Zalika min amba'il ghaibi nuhihi ilayka. Zalika, these, min, from among, amba. So amba is the plural of naba. Naba means news. Al ghaib, unknown. Nuhihi, we have sent it, ilayka, to you. So these are the news, or these are the pieces of news of the unknown which we have revealed to you, O Prophet. So this is a revelation in which the past history has been revealed to you. Wama kunta ladayhim, wa, and ma, not, kunta, you, ladayhim, near it. So you were not present at that time. You were not there. You are now. You have. I mean, that era has passed maybe 500 years before. You were not present at that time. So, ma kunta ladayhim. You were not present at that time. Is when yulquna, they were casting aqlamahum. Aqlam, of course, the plural of qalam, and this is a idiom again to say that they were casting lots. So they were casting lots. Is yulquna aqlamahum ayyuhum, who among them, yakfulu, be the custodian, Maryam of Mary. So they were casting lots. So they were drawing lots as to who is going to be the custodian of Mary. And we know that actually it was Zacharias who was given this position, but it was something that was done as a result of drawing lots. Wama kunta ladayhim, and ma, not kunta, you, ladayhim, with them, is when yakhtasimun, when they were fighting with one another, they were arguing with one another. So you see, they had drawn lots. They wanted to be the custodian of Mary, and everyone wanted to have this coveted position. But lots were drawn, and ultimately Zacharias, these lots fell upon Zacharias, and he was selected as the custodian of Mary. And of course, this resolved the dispute. But before it could be resolved, they were arguing with one another. So Zalika, Zalika min ambail ghaib, referring to the fact that this information is something that is the news of the unknown. It is a history of the past. You don't know it. You don't know it. You don't know when lots were being cast for the custodianship of Mary, and you don't know when these people were fighting for that custodianship. So with this, we come to an end to this literal and idiomatic translation up till now. So if you have any questions regarding this passage, and in the absence of any such questions, we can also take some general questions.
Thank you for this wonderful session, Dr. Saleem. There are no more questions at this time. So I'll just ask you a question. I see a repeated mention of in the Quran, of elderly couples having children. Is that, my question is, obviously God knows that those people are going to have children and they'll be made prophets. Is there a reason for that, whereby they're given children late in life and they can't have those children earlier on to be prophets? Is there some wisdom in that?
Of course, it depends, as is the case here. Zacharias was someone who, it seemed that God wanted to prepare him for that this thing can happen. And remember, he was the father of John, and he was someone who foretold the arrival of Jesus. So basically, this was done at an old age, and the reason, it seems, not only in his case, but in the case of Abraham also. So remember, from the Quran also, and explicitly from the Bible, we know that Abraham was 86 years old.
Yes.
When he was blessed with Ishmael. So it does seem that, yes, one, that God's own will, that when he keeps people barren or does not bless them with a family, there is a reason to it. And then the power of the prayer, of course, is something that is also expressed through this, and the fact that people should not be they should not lose hope against hope. You see, it gives us this lesson that at times things do happen in the form of a miracle, more so in the times of the prophets of God, but for their own specific reasons. But for us, of course, this is the reason that at times things which are totally impossible, they can still take place. But as for the context regarding these two personalities that we know of specifically, it does seem that the Almighty, in His own wisdom, wanted them to realize the might of God, wanted them to realize that if they pray and connect to God, then this is how things will happen. And of course, this is another test for them, that they trust God, they completely resign themselves to the will of God, and at the same time, when they ask for something and they are blessed with that, so this rejuvenates them and gives them even more stronger trust in God.
Okay, thank you for that. Noshaba Wasim, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन है, जिस तरह हजरत मरियम को उन्होंने नजर किया था इमरान की वाइफ ने, तो वो क्या उस दौर की ये ट्रेडिशन थी या आज भी हम इस तरह कर सकते हैं कि अच्छा मुझे अल्लाह ताला औलाद दे तो मैं उसे नजर करूंगा और वो फिर नेक काम करेगी, जिस तरह हजरत मरियम तो अच्छे इंसान.
This is something which Abraham did himself for Ishmael. Remember when God showed him this dream that he is slaughtering or sacrificing Ishmael, it actually meant that he should dedicate him for the temple, for the Baitullah, for the construction of Baitullah, and for his custodianship. So yes, this is something that was common, especially in those times when these mosques of God were built. So remember the temple, and then the mosque of Abraham. All these were very specific tasks which the Almighty had outlined. But today, of course, this is something that I would not in any way advise. And secondly, also remember that these are people or individuals for whom a decision had been taken by God, and a decision at the same time was. I'm sure this must have happened, that this was conveyed to the child, and when he grew up, in the case of Mary, and of course in the case of Ishmael, we know explicitly in the case of Ishmael that they showed their own consent as well. So it was a honor that was bestowed upon them, and they themselves agreed to it, that yes, I will dedicate myself. So that is how it took place, that it was God's will, and when they knew it was God's will, they were very happy to know about it, and they willingly accepted it, because that was a task for God to have given them. But today, this is something that cannot happen. I mean, we can wish our parents, our children, to do something, maybe a certain service, but it can only happen if they also show the same consent. I mean, we cannot force them into it. We can, I mean, ask them, we can request them if we have a certain mission in our mind, but it can only materialize if the grown-up child also agrees with you.
So you cannot nazar like the way.
You cannot. I mean, the way it has been mentioned here is something. It's like God's work, and this is something which is very specific for the prophets of God.
Also, sir, the prophet Zechariah pray for child, and when God listened his prayer, why he become like feeling like how this prayer will be accepted? Like it's feel like he don't trust in prayer.
I mean, it's
So-
not the element of mistrust. I think we discussed this in our last session also. It was more of an assurance and a reference to his own human side. Remember, prophets of God are also human beings, and they need assurances. I gave this example that when the mother of Moses was casting him into the river by placing a small infant in the child, we know from the Qur'an that she was given a special assurance from the Almighty that this is how you should do. So I think this is more out of his assurance that he wanted, that he spoke these words, that God, please grant me a sign that this is something that's going to happen. So remember, these prophets of God, as much as they are prophets, they're also human beings.
From Bhatti Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Thank you, man. Sir, I have a question about this. Allah Ta'ala says, Ajay was chased, and other places he would not have any raghabat towards the woman. And these days, like in these for Western countries, some Christians says, oh, they go homo because of that you know, and
Right.
he didn't have any raghabat to a woman, and they do not get married because Muhammad never got married. Does that have anything to do with the history, or just
No, I think that is separate. That is entirely different. Jesus never married. John never married. And I think there's a reason being that they had such a huge task at their hands that Jesus, I think, did reply once when he was asked that how can I think of having a wife and children when the fate of the Israelites is at stake. So he felt this huge responsibility because he knew that he is the last of the Israelite prophets. He has been blessed with these tremendous miracles that he would give. He would bring back the dead to life. This is one of the greatest miracles, I mean. So he wanted the Israelites to awaken from their slumber. He tried his best. And this is something that did not leave him time to have his own family. So I think this is a very specific case. Other than that, how people say that people turn to homosexuality because of not having a family, that's a different story. I mean, whether they have it or not is more related to their own monasticism, which is asceticism, which means you deny the institution of marriage. So when you become a monk, or you become a nun, or you become a priest, so you make a vow of celibacy, which means that you'll not marry. So I think that has more got to do with that, in which you are denying yourself that those pleasures, or the sexual pleasure which God has, the thirst of which has been kept in your nature, and you try to suppress that urge. So when you try to do that, and you're not at times possible for you to do that, then you indulge in these base ways of quenching your thirst. I think it has got more to do with that than to do with what you just said.
It's against the Allah's will. It's against Allah's wish.
I mean, it's against the. I mean, it's like denying yourself water. If you're thirsty and you don't take on water, then you'll try to do something which takes the place of water. You try to drink something which might not be good, but it might have the same properties as water has. It
So
might
it's
temporarily
just
fulfill your.
it's just a iftira they put on the Yahya alayhi salam, then it's just
Yes, I would say so. I mean, if this is what they say, then this is not correct.
Jazakallah.
Thank you for that. Rafia Khwaja, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Dr. Shehzad, young people these days have difficulty marrying early because they haven't settled down. So so when they have desires and so they can turn to the wrong things because it takes them a long time to marry. Their parents may not be to them. So what is the solution for this?
I mean, there's no easy solution except for the fact that, I mean, you need to educate them to spend more time in creativity, in creative pursuits, in critical thinking, in higher pursuits of knowledge, in service to humanity. So these are the things that cause some diversion. But that sexual desire, which is there at puberty, at adolescence, is there. So, I mean, yes, there are ways in which you can minimize it, you can diminish it, but you cannot, I mean, you just cannot do away with it. So I think that they have to be told that in this regard, if they use their own will to gratify themselves, which is called self-gratification, that is something which is an option as well. But as far as I mean, it's not prohibited by religion at all. If that it comes to that, then of course that can be done. And at the same time, I mean, the society's structure has to be. I mean, it's a long story, and it's I would say something that is well beyond our own control, and means that the society is developed in a way that it leaves very little time and room for people to get married at an early age. So remember, in our earlier times, it was not an essential part that the child or the groom should be earning. So normally a bride would come, she would settle with the groom, and she would be taken care of the father-in-law. And it was like an expanded family, and things would then, I mean, it would be very easy for the child to marry. But today, because of we no longer have joint family systems and we don't have that approach, so now a son or a person has to stand on his feet, and not only stand on his feet, he has to be, I mean, he would like to be well settled in life. And that, if you go to that, I mean, there's no end to that, because to be well settled in life is something that you don't achieve in your 20s. It takes you towards your mid-30s. So I think there's a lot of things that have developed in our society, our social structure, about which we have no control, but they have happened in a way that marriages have become difficult at young age. And then another thing which has been added to it is the introduction of the professional woman. I mean, we find women who are very, very accomplished, who are very professional. They would not like to leave their jobs for marriage. They would not like to relocate to another place, and so to speak. And this is another thing which is not allowing marriages to happen at the right age. So I think this is it's a food for thought for all of us. But what we can do to educate our young ones is the fact that we should make them understand that this is a perfectly normal urge which boys and girls have, and if they gratify it themselves, at least religion does not prohibit it. I mean, for medical reasons, you can ask a doctor. Other than that, if it comes to this, then there is nothing which has been prohibited in this regard. And at the same time, they should be more. They should spend more time in pursuits in which they don't have vacant time. You see, vacant time is something that makes you. It drives you towards these pursuits in a way that you spend hours and hours browsing the internet and doing all sorts of things. So if you have less time, you are more focused, you have a mission in life, you are more creative, you are have a target to achieve. So this basically reduces that free time, which basically is the cause of an escalation in this affair.
But Dr. Saleem, a lot of young people, women, professional women, they don't want to live with their in-laws. So they want a separate home.
Correct.
So this causes an added strain on the
Yes.
marriage because the boy can't afford it. So it is a dilemma.
I mean, this is something that we all are facing. It's not a, there's no easy solution to it. Only thing is that we should guide our young ones what they can do in this situation.
Thank you so much for that explanation, Dr. Saleem. Thank you so much, and we will be ending our session. Thank you.